1, 2, 3, 4. It's the fighter and the kid. We really apologize for getting away from fighting in the last 2 episodes. Because the truth is, we're not really entertaining enough to keep you satisfied with our bullshit and our ass grabbing. Because Brendan isn't that funny, and either am I. But more importantly, we got Big Brown Schaub and Brian the Kid Callen here. We're going to break down some fights. We're going to get back to what we do well. And later on, very excited to have Scott Hanson, who I would consider the greatest football guru of all time.
Some would say that.
He's got
you might know him from the Red Zone with NFL Network.
Yep.
A good friend of mine.
Athlete, by the way, in his own right. Walk on Syracuse.
That's a loose term. I mean, if you consider Rudy an athlete,
hey, easy.
That's a loose term for sure.
Listen, we'll get into that with Scott. He's got lots of stories.
How about we go over this past weekend's fights? How about that? How about it was Team Alpha Male? Why don't we just call it UFC Fox Team Alpha Male?
Well, there are a couple things to talk about. One is that Team Alpha Male is not much like the name for that team, Alpha Male.
Team Alpha Male, when they're all tiny little guys?
Well, no, they're badasses. I just think Alpha Male, I would have boycotted that name. I would have been like, nah, guys, Alpha Male, I don't know. We're all Alpha Males depending on the circumstances. I throw you in the middle of the ocean.
How about Team Little Man?
Yeah,
How about Team Little Man? How about Team Tough Little Man?
Tough Little Man.
Yeah. The best little man in the world.
Mighty Mice.
I wish I could cut 100 pounds and go live up in Sacramento and hang out with those guys.
They're so good. And
they're all my friends. I love those guys.
Well, they have a new striking coach, don't they? Didn't they bring
Good friend of mine, Dwayne Ludwig. Yeah, since Dwayne has been there,
Dwayne Ludwig.
They've just been killing it. Dwayne's Coach of the Year, hands down. I will never go to another Fighters Only award show if Dwayne Ludwig doesn't win Coach of the Year. If he does not win, I will never
What's
talk
his background?
to anyone from Fighters Only.
Was he a boxer?
Dwayne Ludwig?
Yeah.
K1 world champion. I mean, you're talking about one of the best strikers ever in the UFC.
Jeez.
Has the fastest knockout in the UFC at 7 seconds. Originally, they gave it to Todd Duffy, but then they went back, and the commission looked over and gave it to Dwayne Ludwig. He's been fighting forever.
He's a striking guru.
Listen, yeah, and he's kind of Boss Rutan's understudy, and man, my first time in the gym is when I met Dwayne. Literally, my first week I was hanging out with Dwayne, and he's just the old school tough guy. He's
also smart.
Very smart. And Shane Carwin and I, if there was one guy you didn't want to spar with, it was Dwayne.
Really?
Yeah, because he was small, right? He'd walk around about 180, 190, but he would just come forward like the Terminator. It's all he would do, man.
And just cut angles and kick and punch.
Oh, it'd be miserable. It was miserable. And his leg kicks, head kicks.
Oh, yeah.
It was horrible.
Well, we saw a different. I actually, as a fan, and
I told you Uriah was going to win.
Yeah.
I told you.
But I saw him fighting almost differently. As great as he is, and he's such an amazing fighter. It did look like he'd been working to change his style.
But plus, you're in his hometown. You're in his hometown, so you have all this pressure. You have to perform, and you're
fighting a killer. 22 years old. Talk about poise on McDonald. He's poised, man.
For sure. It's just not McDonald's time yet. Will he be champ? Probably.
Yeah.
Probably about 2 years, I bet.
He needs
2-3 years.
He's 22.
2 years. He has acne all over his back.
He's a stud.
It's whatever. He's a stud.
Hey.
He's very
That sounds like an accusation of steroids.
No, not at all. No, not at all. It's because he's 21, 22.
Right.
His back broke out. It's whatever.
Yeah.
Proactive. It's not a big deal.
Yeah.
Anyways, the thing that makes McDonald special is he's one of the young guys who didn't get started in just wrestling or just boxing. He grew up doing MMA, so he's good at everything.
He turned pro at 16.
He's good at everything.
Yeah, he's 16 years old.
He's like Roy McDonald. Roy wasn't a guy who started doing karate or jiu-jitsu or boxing. He started doing MMA as a sport.
Yeah.
So these guys are so well-rounded. I was proud of Uriah, man. Uriah's little fact for you, Brian, little numbers for you. Sure. Uriah's never lost a fight. The only time he's ever lost was a title fight.
Yep.
If it's not title, he wins every single fight. Every single fight.
He's top of the food chain and has been.
And he's been
forever.
Yeah. Forever. And one of the most famous UFC fighters of all time. But
he's also got character. His ability to take pain. The punishment he took from those leg kicks from Jose Aldo and not giving up. When he broke both his hands against
elbows.
Mike Brown. Throwing elbows. No, I'm going to venture to say I believe he's the toughest small man of all time. I mean, I'm being
I agree with that.
I mean, you don't get tougher. You don't get tougher. You don't get tougher.
Tougher. And you want to talk about a businessman? I mean, he started the whole Team Alpha Male. He's the one who brought Dwayne on.
Great fighters, man.
Owns a bunch of properties. Has his own Torque. You know Torque. He owns Torque.
You could house a family of 4 in that cleft in his chin.
He's a ladies' man too now.
Yes.
He's a ladies' man too. He does well, man.
Faber is a stud. I was
He's
in
a beast.
Sacramento. I was hoping he'd come to my show.
Yeah,
But, what are
that
you
fight
gonna
was
do?
great, man. And that guillotine, that's what he's known for. He gets a hold of your neck. I would say probably the most dangerous guillotine in the UFC in the world.
Crazy.
Him or any of those alpha male guys get a hold of your neck, you're in trouble.
Yeah, whatever they're doing over there is pretty amazing.
It's amazing, right? Because on that card you had Danny Castilla, you had Chad Mendez, Joe B, who unfortunately lost
Yeah.
the title.
He's
in the
also
main
fighting
event.
Mighty Mouse Johnson, who's as good an athlete.
But the thing,
as
let's
it
talk
gets.
about that main event with Mighty Mouse and Joe B. You don't see a lot of knockouts at that weight class.
No.
Rarely ever.
No, you don't.
If you would have gave me, 5 different ways he could lose, I wouldn't have said knockout.
Right.
Especially in the first round.
Yeah.
You never see
Especially
that.
a striker as skilled and as Benavidez.
I'll tell you what's tough for me is Joe Benavidez and his girlfriend Megan O'Leary are close friends of mine, and I just know how she felt when he lost. She's the first person I text. Just, man, don't worry, he's gonna be fine.
That's the business you're in.
It's horrible.
That's
man.
the business
it's
you're
horrible.
in. It's why we always talk about, if you're going to talk about he's a warrior and he's a basketball player, he's a warrior and he's a tennis player. Excuse me. Yes, he's a competitor. He's not a warrior. When you get into the octagon against a guy who can hit that hard and you get knocked out, when you get shut down, which is what happened, it's life-threatening. It's terrifying. It's all of the above, and it's painful and humiliating. That's why I have so much
It's
respect for
embarrassing.
anybody who
It's
steps
embarrassing.
into there's nothing to be embarrassed about, first of all, when you're fighting somebody as skilled as Johnson. And
It just is.
But it is. But
That's
it
how
is.
fighters feel, man.
Of
I hate
course
to
they
tell
do.
you, it's embarrassing.
Of course
'cause
they do.
You did this 12-week training camp. You've thought about this guy for 12 weeks.
Yep.
And then you go in there and you get knocked out in 2 minutes. Believe me, I've been there, my man. I flew all the way down to Brazil with a family. My family, friends, coaches, didn't bring a striking coach. We did the UFC countdown. I went around favelas, helping kids out, doing all this charity work. And I get knocked out in the first round
in another country,
in another
with a bunch of
country
people cheering
with a
that you got knocked out.
17-hour plane ride back.
Yeah, that's a long plane ride.
But the thing, you're just.
Granted, you fought a legend. But it's still that had to have softened the blow a little bit.
No, f you, no. Sorry, man. Sorry, no, man.
I love riling up.
No,
Big Brown.
I don't really think. I used to think about my loss. I'm in a spot now where I'm comfortable, right? I've won. I'm 7-3 in the UFC. I've won 6 out of 8 fights. I'm comfortable with loss. You learn from losses, right?
Yeah.
So for me, I used to never talk about it. Now I can talk about it freely because you learn from it. It's what made me the fighter I am today.
Obviously,
yeah.
There's no
You get
question.
better from it.
The great irony of
I'll be honest. I was not ready for that fight. I straight up was not. I was talking to my brother about this the other day.
You had me and Joe Rogan laughing so hard when we were at Morrison. You were like, somebody ought to sit this young guy down and say, hey, maybe you ought to have a couple fights before you fight Big Nog. I don't know. Just
in
an
Brazil.
idea.
Brazil.
He's only got 1,000 years of experience on him with
right?
a million tricks.
This
that
is the best part.
Young buck is not going to see.
No, and this is the best part. The UFC go, hey, we want to give you Nogueira. There's a fight coming up in Denver in August. I go, Denver? I don't want to fight him in Denver. Let's do it in Brazil. I'm fighting the first Brazil. My manager, Lex McMahon, looks at me and goes, he's from Brazil, man. I go, I know. Let's go into his house and knock him out. Someone should be like, hey, Shab, how about you have 7 fights? You're not flying down to Brazil
down.
as the co-main event with Anderson Silva and Nogueira and fighting him in Brazil.
Not a good idea. You're a great athlete, but let's relax.
Let's take it easy. Am I ready for it now? Sure.
Yeah, you are.
Sure. Let's do it.
Yeah, you are.
Let's do it.
Well, can
Different animal.
Can we talk about who you called out or not yet?
I mean, we can. Look. Bigfoot's looking for a fight. I would love to
I
fight
heard you
Bigfoot.
called him out.
I did call him out.
I heard you text some people.
Yeah, I did. Maybe I text Dana White and Joe Silva.
Did you?
Yeah, maybe.
Asking
for the fight.
To put a striking clinic on. I don't know.
I don't want to get into details.
I don't know what it said. I'm just asking the question.
Yeah, listen.
Is Big
He's
Brown,
looking for a
Big
fight.
Brown calling out Bigfoot?
I am. I would love that fight. I'd love to do it in April as the main event somewhere. I think 5 rounds is a big advantage to me. I think he is
doubt.
probably. As far as is it a good matchup for me? No, it's not. It's probably not.
Your business is a nightmare. Your business is a nightmare.
A nightmare, man. A nightmare. I was nervous texting Dana White and Joe Silva about the fight.
Didn't you run to the gym?
I went to the gym right after, and then I met you, producer DJ and Carlton from Fox Sports for lunch at my favorite restaurant. I did not have a good time because all I could do was think about that fight. How about that?
You got dead serious.
Slept like crap last night, too.
Waiting to hear.
So we'll see,
Waiting
man.
to hear.
We'll see.
It's
a tough fight.
Now, we can talk a little bit about GSP, and I think he made a very smart decision.
I agree 100%.
Yeah.
This is my thing.
And I know you lit into a couple people when they
Yeah.
said that they were disappointed in him copping out or something.
It drives me nuts. Cop out. First of all,
Address that.
Well, this is the problem with fighters, and I'm sure I have a good squad around me. I surround myself with great friends and family who are going to tell me when it's time to stop. Nothing's worse than seeing a fighter fight too long. There's nothing worse in the world. I'd rather be Steve DeBerg or Vinny Testaverde in the NFL at 46 throwing the football. It's just not the same. It's just not the same. And in the UFC, if you're too old and you keep getting knocked out, then you don't. No one's trying to see that. So what's George have to gain? What's he need? What's he have?
You know what he has to gain? He has to gain memory loss and brain damage. That's what
exactly.
He has to gain.
That's it. So the fans out there, all they want to see is George lose. That's all they want to see.
Some of them. That's
the majority. That's all they want to see. Man, Johnny Hendricks almost beat him. Let's see it again. Let's see him beat him. Nah. If I'm George, I have money in the bank. I have more money than I can spend in this lifetime. I have more fame than I need. Really, I'm basically the president of Canada, Montreal. No one loves
Montreal,
George more.
but not Montreal. But
it's all right.
If it was Montreal, he would also be the president.
That's true. He's president of both.
You got the weirdest accent. You know that?
That's
we haven't
different,
talked about
right?
that.
No, we'll talk
about it.
about
Is
it.
that from Denver?
Yeah, I think
Keep
so.
Going.
I think so. Anyways, he just there's nothing left for him to do. He's the greatest welterweight of all time.
Yeah.
What's he? He's gonna hang around till they find some young up and coming monster to beat him? Nah, man.
And by the way, there are monsters in the wings, and anybody who hangs around.
Well, there's no one in the world who's going to beat George St. Pierre. Hate to tell you, Brian. There's no one going to beat him. So what's he just wait around to maybe fights Johnny Hendricks for a rematch and he gets clipped?
Yep.
Nah, man.
No, I agree.
I'm proud of him. I really am, man. I'm so happy to see him leave.
I'm 100% behind that. I think he made a really smart decision.
And guess what?
UFC him to come back. He may come back. There's always
for
a chance.
What? No, there's not. People keep saying that. No, man, he retired. Leave him alone.
Fighters tend to go, it's been 2 years. I feel really good.
That's the problem. That's the problem. If he asks me, I'm going to say no. No, man. Get the hell out of here.
Well, I believe Muhammad Ali, after he fought George Foreman, I believe the number is he had 27 fights after that. And that's what really destroyed him.
It's not smart, man.
He fought rugged guys and got really messed up.
And George is the type of guy, he's a very cerebral guy. He's a very smart guy. So for him, getting punched in the face isn't ideal for him. And that's why you see his fighting style changed from when he was younger till now. Mm-hmm. I guess, what it's good for is the rest of the welterweight division out there. Now those guys are like, hell yeah.
Yep.
Now we can all scrap.
Yep.
Now you're going to see the best welterweight fights you've ever seen.
I don't think Johnny Hendricks is going to hold on to that belt either.
No, it's going to be like the heavyweight belt. It's going to constantly change because there's killers at 170. Not now. George is another level because George will fight very systematically and beat you at your own sport. And it's not going to be fun.
I'll make a call right now.
What's up?
I think Carlos Condit's going to hold that belt for a while.
Nah.
Oh, I think he's getting better.
Nope, because of his wrestling. Because of his wrestling.
Really?
Nope. That's his downfall. Yeah. Yep.
He's working on his wrestling.
Oh, is he?
Oh yeah, yeah. And by the way, he's getting stronger. And by the way, getting thicker. And by the way, he's going to be holding the title for a while. Carlos Condit.
I can see him holding the belt 100%.
Yeah.
I just think it's going to switch. I think you're going to see Roy McDonald with the belt. I think you see Carlos Condit.
I don't.
I think you see Johnny Hendricks, obviously.
No, you're wrong.
How about Robbie Lawler, Johnny Hendricks? That's the next title fight. The winner of that holds the belt.
Do you agree with that?
I do, and this is why. Robbie Lawler's paid his dues, man. He's an exciting fighter.
Yep.
He's a very exciting. He's been fighting forever. If you know the UFC or you know anything about MMA, Robbie Lawler has been doing the damn thing for years.
What he's done is
why
rare,
not give him the title?
And what
shot?
he's done is rare. What he's done is his ability, in a way, to go from kind of a little bit obscure,
for sure,
forgot
You're
about,
right.
to now come back with a more intelligent, more conservative fighter with the same kind of power. He went down to American Top Team and he said it was the perfect fit for him. I mean, he's really kind of changed a lot of it.
I just like seeing. I like when you see a guy who's reinvented himself and now he's back on top
and beat a monster.
He beat Roy McDonald, man.
That's no joke.
This is the thing that's scary about Robbie Lawler is he has by far the heaviest hands at 170. Not even close.
Really?
He touches you, you're going out.
Heavier, do you think, than Hendricks? That's going to be an interesting.
I do. Hendricks has that big left hand because of his wrestling, but Robbie Lawler, man, he clips you. You're in trouble.
I'll tell you, it's going to be very exciting.
I think we've talked enough UFC for now. And we
Yeah.
need to bring my boy Scott Hanson. And mind your P and Qs
My
about
P's and Qs.
NFL.
What does he know?
Because if you don't know anything about the NFL,
Does he know his football?
then you don't even try and chime in on this conversation.
his football?
He knows football. You might know him from NFL Red Zone.
Scott Hanson, ladies and gentlemen.
Fellas,
What's
going
up,
on?
man?
What's going on?
Now that is a voice for radio.
Sure is.
Right?
I said that's a lot of soda in that Michigan voice. Of his.
Yeah,
He's a real
No.
blonde, by the way. I mean, he's a real blonde.
we call it pop back in Michigan.
What's that? The voice or
No,
the,
soda.
We call it pop
You
in
got
Denver
some-
too. We call it
Yeah.
pop in
You
Denver.
call it pop.
You call it
That's
soda?
No, I called soda.
Soda?
I call it soda now.
Don't
but
call it
yeah,
pop because
growing
you know
up,
why? Because I'm not living in the 1950s.
No, soda would be the 1950s. Soda? You want to go get a couple of
Hey,
sodas, fellas?
you want to get a malted?
Hey, let's go get some sodas, fellas. Is that what you guys do
Well, first of
back
all,
in
I
New
don't-
York?
I don't push my fist
Yeah,
in
you
the air
do.
like that.
Yeah,
That was
you do.
awkward.
Hey, let's go get some sodas. Anyways, it's Pop, Brian. And this is Scott Hanson.
Scott, thanks for joining the Fighter. And
good
the
to be
Kid.
with you guys. Good to be with you.
Yeah.
Fighting, not so much your thing. Football.
You know what? It was an education just listening to you right now. I was trying to take notes. I was actually surfing the internet here, checking out some of the guys you were just talking about. But no, I got a lot of respect for guys who put their life on the line, put their health on the line, put it. The NFL guys have been doing it for decades, and UFC is just taking it obviously to a new level. Because when it comes down to it, being a man in society, right? When it all breaks down, when negotiations fail,
When the agreement to behave well breaks down.
and you stare into the darkness of another man's eyes, you have a choice to make.
That's right.
And these two guys in the octagon make that choice to say, all right, you're there, I'm here, let's go.
Everybody in all of our childhood, everybody wanted to know who the toughest kid in the neighborhood
Sure.
was, didn't they?
Sure.
Always wanted to know who
Yeah.
was the toughest guy. It's like, oh, that guy's big, but that guy over there, he's the one.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was always referred to as the one. But but you're talking about you were just touching on injury and stuff. Let's just break right into this for a second.
You're going to hit him with concussions right
Well,
away.
I want to ask him about that because
Wouldn't be the first time from my career. So
Really?
Yeah. Well, yeah. I'm sure I've had my share.
I bet, man.
But how is that going to change the game? Do you think as we learn more and more about what these guys are going through? And is that I'm sure they're working on better equipment and things. But the fact of
Yeah.
the matter is, it's football. It's football.
Do you think it's as big as a problem as everyone's making it out to be?
Well, I'm sure you guys have seen the news in the last year during this season. As a matter of fact, the
all anyone
NFL
talks about.
settled the concussion lawsuit, the massive one, the class action lawsuit that was brought against the NFL by dozens, if not hundreds of former players. And I think legally they're going to go forward, and it's not going to be an issue. It was a cloud hanging over the NFL's head for a long time because it wasn't so much like, oh, surprise, ramming your head into another man's head, even with a helmet on with padding on, is going to cause some damage, whether that's immediate or long term. No one was saying that. It was the old what did the NFL know and when do they know it type of thing. And they ultimately they've settled the lawsuit. They're going forward. I'll say this because I've actually attended the head, neck, and spine seminars that the NFL has. The best in the world are hired by the NFL to study this and try and make the game safer. I mean, they've hired guys who have worked with the U.S. military in terms of trying to protect the human brain, which is still a mystery. And if you talk to some of them in the medical community, they still say, hey, the brain is still, as much as we know about it, it is still a mystery.
Absolutely.
And what damages it, short term, long term, and if you can even quantify it is still a mystery. Look, my employer is the NFL, and I might sound like a shill saying okay, but I've seen it. I've seen the type of equipment that they're developing, the type of testing that they're going through, and trying to educate the athletes to make their choice.
It's an outstanding
because you know what?
organization.
I know the athletes.
Yep.
And if you put a document in front of them when they were 5 years old, when their mom first signed them up for Pee Wee football, that said you're gonna grow up, you're gonna make X number of millions of dollars, or you're even gonna get one snap in one NFL game, but you're gonna risk it as well. They'd all sign.
Of course they
agree.
would. Of course they
This
would.
is my thing on it. Everyone knows what they're getting into.
Yeah.
100% when
Yeah.
you start football. You know it's not healthy. Same with fighting. Listen, I know it's not healthy. Hate to tell you, fellas, everyone in this room, we're all going to be slurring our speech when we're older. It just happens.
And by the way,
mine just might be a little sooner.
It's also why we look
with an accent. You and
That's
I.
true, with a little
Brendan.
accent. Apparently, from Brian, I have an accent.
It's also why we admire and look at fighters and football players with awe. Why, when they walk into a bar, other men go, "That's a real man right there."
Because they're risking it.
They're
For
risking
your
it.
entertainment.
That's right.
For your entertainment, they're risking their health.
Yeah.
They're making millions of dollars, but they know what they're getting into. And the NFL's doing a good job. You're not going to be able to stop it, no matter what. I know the NFL. You can, if you want to comment on it, you can. What the NFL shouldn't do is change the game, because now you're getting guys, instead of hitting up top, they're going down low. And You're getting more ACL tears ever, right?
I've had pro football players tell me I'd rather be hit in my head
all day
than
get
down
my
low.
knees taken
Really?
cut out.
Yes.
All day.
Because knees end your career.
Well, a knee it takes a year to come back from, roughly.
Yeah.
And if you get hit down low, Rob Gronkowski was a great example of it just a week or two ago when he just got blasted down low, because the bigger guys in the open field, when they get that type of momentum going, a smaller DB has a choice to make. And now, if the choice just to bring him down for the football play is there, that's one thing. But if then he's also calculating, I'm going to get a FedEx envelope into my locker on Tuesday afternoon, it's a fine from the league for 10, 20, 30 grand, whatever they might hit him for if I do a helmet-to-helmet collision, I'm going low on him. And the ball carriers, you can't be on the field. You can come back from a concussion when you go through the protocol. They have a whole series of things, hoops you got to jump through to be cleared to play. You can come back from that in a week. You can come back from that the next week or a week or two later. ACL, MCL, PCL, anything, you tear something in your knee, it's a year.
I feel like they're changing.
I never thought of that.
Yeah. I feel like they're changing the game with the new rules.
They have.
It's not fun to watch. And there's certain guys like Tom Brady. It's kind of why the rule with the quarterback can happen, right?
Yes, yeah. Quarterbacks are. They're
quarterbacks.
They're in
we might as well be playing flag football.
Yeah, they're in bubble.
I mean, you can't touch them.
Yeah.
If you sneeze on Tom Brady, you're getting a 15-yard penalty.
Yeah,
God, that's amazing to me. That does change the game.
Yeah,
and it even messes with stats.
Absolutely, yeah. We just had a passing of a legend in the NFL within the last year, Deacon Jones. You remember the name?
Oh yeah,
Sure do.
DN for the Rams, Hall of Famer,
one of the greatest of all time. In fact, they credit him. There's some urban legend about him coining the term sack, quarterback sack.
Yeah.
They didn't keep the stat until the early 1980s. Had they kept the stats, he would have blown away every sack artist from Bruce Smith to Lawrence Taylor to any of the other guys.
And it wouldn't even be close, right? It wouldn't be close right now.
Sacks per game, he would have been highly above everyone else. I mean, he was just a terror. But he had famous interviews before his passing within the last year, just talking about how he just can't believe that they've encased the quarterbacks in glass, and just said, that's just off limits.
Well, there's a story about Deacon Jones from another football player, and it was never recorded, but my friend played for a little bit with the Jets and said this about.
Are you making
Deacon
this up right now?
No, he said this
Your friend played with the Jets,
but
with
my
Deacon
buddy
Jones?
played. No, Deacon Jones didn't play with the Jets, but don't worry about that.
Weird.
What I'm saying is that he played pro football, and his friend was with Deacon Jones one time, older football player, and Deacon Jones was looking at they was during a big game, and they had dogs on the field for crowd control, and Deacon Jones kept staring at those dogs, and his buddy goes, "What are you looking at, man?" And Deacon Jones said, "I killed those dogs." And he was like, "What are you talking about?" He goes, "I was just thinking about if they let those dogs loose on me. I kick that one dog's legs from out under it. Then I take that other dog and I throw it on that dog with no legs. And I'll stomp that dog." And he was calculating in his mind how he'd killed two dogs at one time.
A little bit of a psycho, but all right. That's weird.
And my money's on Deacon Jones.
Well,
by the way.
you know what he was also famous for? I mean, they changed the rules because of him. His famous move coming off the line of scrimmage was the head slap.
The club, right?
The club.
Yeah,
He used to go
right.
upside of your head, hit you in your ear hole on the left or the
That
right,
feels
depending on
good.
what side he was coming from. And you know why he said it? He said, because there's not a man alive who doesn't blink when you hit him upside his head, and that's all the time I need to get around him and get
See,
to the
that's
quarterback.
football. That's football.
Wow.
That's what we want.
What
I
happened
love
to those
that.
days, man? That's cool.
Yeah. But they've changed it, and you know what? If it's going to be, it's a tough call. If it's to ultimately make it safer and to perpetuate the sport, it's as popular as any sport in the country's ever been. I really believe it's past baseball in terms of like America's pastime, America's favorite sport.
Baseball.
But I actually think it's because of multimedia and the speed of the internet and everything else like that. I think it's the most popular sport in the history of the country. Meaning, in baseball's heyday, it was not as popular as professional football.
I agree.
Remember,
I agree
high
with that.
definition TV and the cameras on the field.
Yes.
That are bringing the game right into
Yeah.
your eyeballs, man. I mean,
Yeah.
it's 3D. It's just you can see the beads of sweat on their arms. That is an amazing. That is real entertainment.
The other thing about football, the other thing about football, I think that
HD TV, whatever.
that appeals to so
Especially
many
with my
people.
hands down my pants. It's crazy. What?
Sorry, Scott.
What?
Ryan's a
That's
creeper.
illegal,
Sorry, guys,
illegal
what?
touching in our business.
Yeah.
The amazing thing about football is who are the fastest athletes in the world? It's Olympic sprinters,
Yep.
right? Who are the,
One direction.
Who are well, actually
In
straight,
one direction.
straight line speed?
Yes, but not
Straight
side
line
to
speed.
side.
He's
Okay.
making a larger point.
Well, hold. You see where I'm going there, Brian. I would contest that the next fastest group of athletes are NFL wide receivers, the fastest ones, and NFL defensive backs, because occasionally those guys do get into the
No
Olympics
question.
and
I'd say
Olympic trials,
DBs.
right?
No
I'd say
question.
DBs.
The strongest athletes in the world, in terms of just sheer raw lifting weight off the ground, are Olympic power lifters.
Yep.
Okay, I would contest that the next strongest group of men on the planet, athletes on the planet,
Yep.
are NFL football
Yes.
players.
Yes.
You could
Linemen.
put some of those guys in training for the Olympics, and they could do some of those things.
Yes.
100%, but
And
there's no
take
money in it. That's why you don't see him do it.
Exactly,
There you
exactly.
go.
But take that, extrapolate all of the movements in sport, what we consider athletic competition, and you isolate it in certain position groups in the NFL, and you'll find some of the greatest in the world,
Yep.
and you got 22 of them on a field on every single snap.
Yeah.
Okay.
I always say, I mean, football is the biggest, fastest men in the world. Strongest, fastest men in the world.
Yes.
If you look at it as a
Yeah.
whole,
Yeah.
they 22 of the
Yep.
fastest, strongest men in the world.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any question.
What
about it.
people don't realize in football, and I got this question a lot coming from football and having a football background and coming to the UFC. Everyone's like, oh, how's it feel to have this one-on-one competition now? What you don't realize is football is just a bunch of one-on-one competitions. There's 11 guys on the
a
field,
good point.
but as a fullback, it's me versus the linebacker. It's one-on-one, and everyone's getting their job done individually.
Yes.
But all it is a bunch of one-on-one battles, really.
You know, Todd Harriman from the Philadelphia Eagles came to my show
Okay, yep.
this past weekend.
Yep. Offensive lineman, yep.
Yeah, he's 6'8", a legit 6'8". I think he might be taller, and he's about 315 pounds of
Banana
solid
fingers.
muscle.
Banana fingers.
Banana
Huge
fingers?
banana fingers.
I mean, I always look at you and think of you as a very big guy.
No.
He dwarfs you.
Oh, yeah.
And a handsome guy, by the way. And
Well, for a 300-pounder,
He's actually a handsome
It's
fella.
a different world at 300 pounds being handsome.
his girl's a dime piece. I mean,
Well, he's
dime
in the
piece.
NFL.
Yeah. And a very nice guy. The point I'm making is that I'll be in Tempe this weekend doing stand-up at the Improv, ladies and gentlemen, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. If any of the Cardinals or any of the
Cardinals
or any
looking
of
to
the-
laugh.
looking to laugh, come to my show. No, the point I was making is that he's just so inhumanly large and
Yeah.
proportioned. And I
Yeah.
thought, and I said, you're so big. I always say the same thing to him because I don't know what else to say. And he's just like, you got to be big. Everybody's big, and
Yeah.
so is the guy across from me.
Yeah.
And it's a war every single minute of the game. The line is really where the war goes on, right?
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, you were on the
100%.
line. It's where
The
war
open
goes
field hits are the ones that make it onto NFL Total Access or Sports Center or wherever else.
Yeah.
But it's the banging inside that is every play, and it's what wins and loses football games. It
And those
absolutely
guys
does.
play in pain all the time.
Yeah, there are stories of guys
the
that
time.
do stuff. I mean, there were literally guys would tell me, oh, man, I've had guys tell me, and this is off camera too. This is just not they're trying to, dramatize it or anything
Yeah.
like that. Scott, I remember getting into my car. It was a home game, so we drove our own cars to the stadium. And I got in my car, and I put my car in reverse, and I couldn't remember if I turned left or turned right out of the stadium to go home.
I've been there. I've had that in sparring. I've got my car, but I didn't know where to go.
Oh, no.
I got my car. This is after this is probably 6 years ago when I first started sparring, really a ton with Shane Carwin. I got my car, and I got out of the parking lot and didn't know where I was going or how to get home.
Yeah, that scares me. I watched Dhani Jones. I met him at a Knicks game.
Yep.
And it was when he was playing with the Giants, and he was a linebacker. And I'm not kidding when I say this. It was a Tuesday, I think. He was walking if you saw him walking, you would say, well, if you did it in a movie and you were playing a cripple, the director would come up and say, dude, that's too much. We're not doing a cartoon. You're not, please, you don't have to waddle like, you're not the Hunchback of Notre Dame. So I said to him, how long are you out for? And he said, what do you mean? I said, well, you're bunched up there. And he said, I'm playing Sunday, bro. And his fingers were by the way, he's a beast. You want to talk about a big guy. His fingers were just so broken up and
mangled.
Stuff. Oh, dude. And I was like, you're playing on Sunday and you can barely walk. You're limping. You're so extreme in your limp. Yeah, he's playing on Sunday.
Once he gets warmed up.
The arc for these guys to come off of a Sunday game and ramp back up to another Sunday kickoff.
Or even Thursday.
Is
Some play
unbelievable.
on Thursday.
Well, Thursday Night Football's on NFL Network, and the guys talk about that a lot. The backside is tremendous because you get 10 days to recover, but you only got 3 days to ramp it back up before you're heading back out onto another football field. What these guys do, it's probably very similar to UFC, with the exception of the schedule in the NFL is obviously much more condensed than a fighter would have to go through. Is just tremendous, and it's easy as fans to get disconnected from it and just say, these guys, I'm just looking at jerseys and whatnot and helmets running around out there because I've rooted for the Dallas Cowboys since I was a kid, or whoever someone's favorite team is. But the human side of the story, what these guys do to compete at the highest level in the world is amazing. It really is.
Can you give me, speaking of the Dallas Cowboys, I just need to hear a man who really knows his football.
Yeah.
Where does Tony Romo go down as a quarterback in the grand pantheon of things?
Well, right now,
on a scale of 1 to 10.
Okay, you and I are,
if they win out, they win the division, right? I think so.
Yeah, the Cowboys. Yeah, well,
They have Washington and then Philadelphia left.
Exactly.
If they win
NFC
both,
East,
they win the division.
NFC East is exactly what Dallas and Philadelphia, for that matter, needed, because neither of them are really world-beating teams. They lose games they shouldn't occasionally and whatnot. But it's the NFL, any given Sunday and everything. Tony Romo, you and I are talking right now, a couple days after he threw two really bad fourth quarter interceptions. His one-loss record in December drops off precipitously from November, when he's one of the better quarterbacks. I mean, we go into statistical analysis at NFL Network like you can't believe, right? Yeah. We've got guys' quarterback rating.
Guys love stats.
Exactly. So you can lie with statistics all you want. In the games the Cowboys have lost this year, okay, he has. I'm doing this off the top of my head. I can look it up, but I believe it's 11 touchdowns and 3 interceptions. He has not been the reason that they've lost the games that they've lost. He's actually a really good quarterback, but he's never won big games. Okay, one playoff win in his career. He's got the beautiful wife and the $100 million contract and all that other type of stuff, and he plays on the most popular team in the United States of America. So there's a lot of people who want to take shots at him, and he does throw logs onto the fire himself when he makes bad interceptions or bad decisions. That is on him, and it's magnified
for sure.
Everyone's
looking for it.
If you're the shortstop of the New York Yankees, if you're the center of the Los Angeles Lakers, if you're the quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys, don't be imperfect.
All eyes on you. Can you figure out why in the world we don't know? We still can't figure out the sort of helix for you get these great quarterbacks in college, and there's no way to tell whether it's going to translate to the pros.
One of the fascinating things about it. The Heisman Trophy is a good example. There have been bad
idea to win it. Bad idea to win it. How about especially as a quarterback?
No,
in other words, it doesn't. A lot of times,
it doesn't mean you're going to. It doesn't mean you're going to be a Pro Bowl NFL quarterback. But there's some good really good Heisman players. RG3. Hell of a player. He's had a rough year, but he's a good player.
Yeah. Cam Newton's having a nice season and
solid
stuff.
Stud.
And there have been other guys.
Tim Tebow's a winning quarterback. How about that, Brian? Say something. I'm going to slap you.
Okay.
No, he is in the NFL. He's a winning quarterback in the NFL.
You know what I love about Brendan? He's so loyal to his friends that he will stick up for anybody, and I like to rile him up. And I have a lot of respect for Tim Tebow, but the fact is he's not in the league.
The only question I have for you, Brian, is, do you count yourself one of Brendan's friends? Will he stick up for you someday?
I'm Brendan's teacher.
His sensei.
Mentor. I'm his sensei. He calls me sensei.
Absolutely. And consider this. NFL scouting departments are probably some of the greatest headhunting agencies in the country, right? I mean, they analyze more metrics and more. I've had scouts tell me, we've gone to interview a guy's 7th grade gym teacher before we draft him.
It's too much.
What was he like? What was he like in junior high?
too much.
Did he follow instructions? Did he ever have a problem with the other kids and stuff like that? I'm not joking. They will go back and dig into a guy's past, and obviously they're grinding through the game film and whatnot, and they're poking and prodding. The NFL Combine, which is broadcast on NFL Network, is one of the more
which I
amazing-
literally watch every second of the Combine.
It's fascinating.
I love it.
It's fascinating.
I love it.
They know
I love it. It's
everything
weird.
you could possibly know about a
It's
guy,
not weird.
especially
It's fun.
The higher you draft a guy, the more obviously money you're investing in him and in your
investment.
franchise and stuff like that. And yet they still get it wrong from time to time.
I know.
And yet Tom Brady will have 198 players in his draft taken before him. Okay.
What about Russell?
And
The Seahawks.
Russell Wilson had 2 rounds of guys go before
Incredible.
He was drafted.
This is the thing, but you got
and yet
guys.
you'll have guys that are taken first overall that completely flame out.
It's
fascinating.
Is there
Fascinating.
any truth to this theory that I think being a quarterback in the NFL is got to be the hardest position in sports in many ways. The ability to read a backfield, chunk information, and read a backfield that quickly.
hardest in sports?
Yeah. As far as being able to read a backfield that quickly, as far as being able to get release the ball, learn all the plays, your knowledge of the game, being able to read things in split second timing, you got to be a field general. You got to be a crazy athlete. You got to run. You got to throw. You got to take pain. It's 1,000 things. It's why it's such a rare. It's very rare to be that good at it.
Yeah.
So many people
It's tough
try,
to
some
find a
people-
good one.
Yeah.
I mean, you got a football guy in here, so I would probably agree with you. If you had a baseball guy in here, they would say hitting the curveball is the hardest thing in sports to do.
That has
Well,
more to do-
statistics show that hitting a home run or a curveball is harder to do than being an NFL
Big
quarterback.
difference, huge difference. And here's what it is. First of all, they've done studies on that. First of all, being able to hit a curveball has a lot to do with your eyes, how good your eyes are.
Yes.
So does being a quarterback
Also, it is also
or
it also,
doing
it also,
anything
yes,
athletic.
Being a quarterback, though, it has the X factor, and that is you got to play with pain. You got to play with pain. More importantly, you might get leveled.
Play
and
with
you got,
pain?
You got
Yeah.
you got at least 6 other guys coming at you.
Yeah.
That's
Baseball
sports.
players
Well,
don't have to deal with that.
that's
the thing about
sports.
the thing about
not in all sports. Not to the level that NFL players have to.
Yeah, I think I
Don't
lean.
don't contradict me.
I disagree.
I lean with
Think
you on
about
this one,
hockey
Brian,
players.
and here's why. Because if you're playing quarterback in the NFL, okay, at the highest level, and if you're a winning quarterback, if there is one flaw in anything that you just listed right there, you will not be successful. You will not win.
Right.
Okay? You can run a 4.4. You can be 6'5", 240 pounds. You can you could throw the ball 60 yards from your knees over the goalpost if you want. And there are guys I'm describing that literally
There
can do
is,
all that type of
yes.
stuff. But if you're not mentally tough,
Yeah.
not going to do it.
Vince Young.
If you can't handle success, if you can't handle prosperity, if money changes you,
Yeah.
if you can't handle the media constantly picking through everything in your personal and professional life, you can't be successful at this level. The guys who do it are some of the most rare people walking the face of the
I agree
earth.
with that 100%. I heard Kaepernick. One of his issues is he started buying into his hype and started reading the negativity on his Twitter.
Started favoriting tweets
Yeah.
that were blasting him.
Bad idea.
He started reading it.
Kaepernick, don't do that. Don't read
Yeah.
It's
good
too
press.
bad, man.
Don't read bad
gotta
press.
You got to have the skin of an armadillo, and that's almost figuratively and literally because
It's
you
tough,
will take
man.
shots.
It's
you
tough.
gotta part of your job description is standing in the face of a blitz when you know you got 5 guys blocking 6 that are coming after you, meaning someone's coming free to give you one right in the chops. But my job is still to stand in there and deliver. Okay, that's a figurative tough skin that you have to have, or excuse me, a literal.
Yes.
The figurative is when you lose, you get all the blame.
It
all put
doesn't
on your
stop.
doorstep.
It doesn't
When-
stop. If
Yeah.
I'm working a 9 to 5 and some guy's picking on me
Yep.
in the office at Kinko's,
Yep.
I go home, it stops. Then back next in the morning at 9 a.m., it's back on.
Yeah.
If you're a fighter in the UFC, if you're a famous fighter in the UFC, if you're a quarterback for the NHL,
Yeah.
you do your job. Let's say it goes well or it doesn't.
Yeah.
It doesn't stop because then you got to face social media.
You can't walk into a Kinko's if you're one of those guys
No,
because the guy making copies over there might look at you and be like,
Well, he's
what
gonna
the-
critique
what
you.
that?
He's
Yeah.
gonna-
The
Hey,
answer
bro.
is do not read your good or bad press.
That's easy to say.
Yeah.
That's easy to say.
One of my-
If you're present on social media, you're gonna see it.
I don't believe
Then,
it.
then
Don't
you
be
can
present.
cut it off. There are
Don't be
several famous
present.
guys.
Well, then what? They don't do
There are-
any interviews, Brian.
Oh, do you have to do interviews? But
Well, guess what? In the
It's not
interviews, you get
interviews that
critique.
get to you. You
It
get
is though.
critique. You gotta ask questions.
No, interviews get to you, man.
yeah, a little bit.
No, I'm telling
I
you.
played quarterback. I know.
No, I'm telling you, it's horrible.
You know, the best guys at it are completely boring on television. Tom Brady is one of the most boring interviews that you can have. And I know Tom obviously professionally, but I know him personally too. He's got a personality, but he will shut it down.
He just doesn't give
Bill
you anything.
Belichick is the worst news conference giver in the history of pro football. He actually has a personality.
Really?
Oh, he won't reveal it to anybody.
Oh, tell me about him. I'm fascinated with him.
Well, I'll tell you one funny story. Back in 2007, the year that they were going undefeated in the regular season, okay, they were trying for 16-0, and this is before NFL Red Zone was created. So I was a reporter. I was a roving reporter. I would go to practices. Now I'm in the studio on NFL Sundays exclusively, but. I went to the Patriots practice. They were the team everyone was talking about. And it was Christmas Day. I want to say it fell on a Wednesday or a Thursday. And I got drew the short straw to have to go to the practice on Christmas Day, right? And it was me and like two other reporters showed up. Now, that interview room is usually packed with people, but a lot of people, on the holiday, they got it off. And Belichick comes out, and he tried. I really believe he tried to be sincere when he gets up to the microphone before he's faced questions, and he looks at like the three of us that are sitting there, and he's like, "First of all, Merry Christmas." I almost couldn't help but laugh. I'm like, Bill.
Unbelievable.
He goes, and there are coaches. I believe he's one of them that will. When a coach, like on a Wednesday, that's the first practice day of the week, usually on an NFL week. The coach and the quarterback will step up to the podium and face the mass media there. Some of them will have bets with each other. I know Andy Reid and Donovan McNabb used to have this when they were both Philadelphia Eagles. Who can be more boring?
Really?
And they'd bet $100 or something like that, and then the rest of the team who would be watching the news conference in the cafeteria or whatever else like that would vote. Oh yeah, Donovan was more boring today than Peyton is excellent at it too.
That's when you don't need the publicity. You don't need the notoriety.
That's a good
in
point.
The UFC, it's a different animal.
That's a good point.
Because you better be entertaining in your interview.
Because you're selling subscriptions as you go.
Well, also, my publicist, my marketing team, you're looking at them.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Those guys, there's a reason you don't hear like Andrew Luck, not a great interview. Not a personality.
He's smart enough to be boring.
For sure. So you don't see those guys doing a lot of interviews outside of that.
Look at some of the people who are hating on Robert Griffin III this year.
Yeah.
What's one of the things they're knocking on him? It's not so much all the play on the field, which has been subpar to his standards, but it's how many times he's been doing interviews and how much he's saying and how many people parse your words and everything else like that. It's like, dude, shut it down.
Shut it down.
Just shut it down.
Shut it down.
There's so many cliches available to you if you want to do that. Now, this is a guy who that takes dinner off my table when someone's boring on television, right? We want that drama.
We want that
but practically
controversy.
speaking,
if I was one of those guys, I'd be as boring as I could possibly be.
I'm different. It's entertaining to me. How speaking of entertaining, this is what's cool to me is the NFL switching it up. The Super Bowl is going to be cold this year.
Cold.
How do you feel about that? It changes the game.
As
Cold
one of the guys who has to be on the sidelines of the Super Bowl, I'm not real thrilled about it.
Oh, I feel so bad for you. Oh my God, Scott, this is horrible.
I just said that.
the sidelines of
I
the
tried
Super
to draw
Bowl.
pity by being, that's
Let's get that. Take it from the guy who was in Wisconsin hunting. Get the peel and stick body warmers. Put it on your kidneys.
I've heard about these now. I've heard about them, really.
And toe warmers. Get toe warmers.
I know
put
that.
On your toes.
Sure.
They're peel and stick body warmers.
Okay.
Last 12 hours on your kidneys, on your stomach.
Yeah, all right.
And
what?
Yeah.
What are we talking about right now?
Learn that in the special forces.
Bored. So bored right now.
So bored with body heat
Good
conversation.
Lord. So the
Siberian
Super Bowl's
special
in New
ops.
York. The Super Bowl's in New York.
Yeah. New Jersey. The New Jersey folks will be quick to point out.
True.
You know what the NFL refers to it as? New York, New Jersey is how they want
Trying
to
to
have
sell it
referred
as
to.
that?
Yeah, because all the activities, the Super Bowl is an event. It's not a football
So
game.
much
It's
fun.
an event.
Parties.
And
if you've never been to the Super Bowl, they have parties. ESPN, NFL.
anyone is there.
Nike has
almost
parties.
all of that's going to go on in Manhattan,
the best,
obviously.
yes.
But MetLife Stadium, the home to the Jets and the Giants that will host the Super Bowl, is over in the Meadowlands in New Jersey. So they want to make sure that they give everyone their props, to say.
Yeah.
So New York, New Jersey, but it's an outdoor stadium.
It's going to be a
And
different
the
game,
Farmer's
man.
Almanac, I'm sure you guys have a copy available too.
duh.
Couple of them.
Copy,
you
memorized it.
You read through it. Well, then you know that Groundhog Day this year, Super Bowl Sunday, is scheduled to be a nasty weather,
what's
below
the date?
freezing.
What's the date?
It's February 2nd.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the
Below
Sunday this year.
freezing. See, to me, that's not good because
And-
as a Denver Broncos
well-
fan, if Peyton Manning plays there,
Yeah.
guess what? He sucks in the cold.
Well-
so now we're not going to play very well.
Well, I hope he's not listening to the podcast because he would take issue with that.
I
Even though the
know.
statistics say.
Good thing you can't beat me up,
the-
Scott. How about that? How about you not can do shit,
But he
Peyton Manning?
but he is the greatest quarterback of all time.
You know who's won more playoff games than Peyton Manning in Denver? Let me help you out, Brian. Tim Tebow. You know how many playoff games Peyton Manning's won? Zero.
Are you putting Tim Tebow
Now shut up.
in the same sentence as Peyton Manning?
No, I think you put him ahead. Of the
No, I actually put him ahead. He's
gonna
won
need you-
more playoff
I'm gonna
games
need you
than
to
Peyton Manning.
I'm going to need you
He's
to
won more
shut
playoff
it down.
games. No,
Gonna
I'm
need you
talking
to-
statistics.
Let me apologize to our fight fans and the fans of the
Fight
podcast.
fans.
I think Brennan's drunk right now. Don't ever.
I'm completely
don't
sober.
ever
I'm
mention
giving
your
fact.
friend.
Scott, is it
Don't
not
ev-
a fact?
Don't ever mention your
That is a
handsome
fact.
friend.
That's a fact.
Yeah, it is a
Don't
fact.
ever mention your handsome friend in the same sentence as Peyton Manning again, or I'll take a hand to your face. It's going to get ugly. All right, Scott.
I want to back up, though. Why do you say Peyton Manning is the greatest quarterback of all time? Because he only has one Super Bowl ring.
Well, that never worries me. It's like the
Okay.
same thing with Dan Marino. The reason
Yeah.
it doesn't worry me is because it's such a team sport.
Yes.
That and it goes.
And I'm
back
not
to what
arguing
we
with you. I just want to hear
It
your
goes
case.
back to putting it all on a quarterback.
Yeah.
I've just never seen anybody be able to do what he does as a leader, as accurate as he is, to be able to come back time and
What
time
is
again.
going on right now?
And-
No, I'm
and-
going to stop you. Name
and-
5 quarterbacks in the NFL.
Well, I mean, you got Joe Montana, who's always in,
Joe
in
Montana.
the conversation.
Joe Montana. I'm about to jump out
no,
of my
no,
seat.
I'm saying
Joe Montana.
as far as the great quarterbacks of all time.
Is this,
Talking about-
now, now, is
We're
Joe
talking
Montana? Is this
historically.
the same guy who played with Deacon Jones in New York? The story you told earlier.
That's exactly right.
Okay,
Joe
just
Montana's
checking.
actually the cop
He's actually
holding
in
the
New
dog.
Jersey.
Holding the
Okay,
dog.
Joe
He's the
Montana was
cop
the guy
dog.
holding the dogs with Joe Namath.
Listen, are you arguing that Peyton Manning is not
No, I just want you to name
the greatest,
5 other
the
NFL
greatest
quarterbacks. for me.
quarterback?
That's all I
you
want.
mean who are playing right now?
Right now. 5 quarterbacks.
Kaepernick, Romo, RG3, Michael Vick.
Michael Vick's no.
Well, he's injured right now.
Keep going. I want starters.
What's his name? Schaub.
There is a shop in the NFL
what's
who
his name?
plays
He's
quarterback.
good. What is he playing with now?
Houston.
Houston,
Yeah.
and he's horrible this year.
He's actually a backup now. He's been benched.
Yeah, he's
What's
been
funny
benched.
is that I haven't. The only reason
That'd be
that
4, but that's all right. We'll just stop you there.
I can keep going. I mean, one of my favorite quarterbacks,
Chad
probably-
Pennington.
Chad, I like Chad.
Chad Pennington.
We were talking about Chad the other day. But one of my favorite quarterbacks is Drew Brees. I mean, Drew Brees
Yeah.
is a guy who worked on fundamentals, and I talked to the guy who trains him. He's so intense, even when he trains. When he doesn't get it right, he freaks out.
See,
Drew
he's
Brees-
better than Peyton Manning to me.
In some ways, you could make the argument that Drew Brees is the little man that could. He's not working with the same tools that Peyton Manning, 6'5",
I'd agree.
235.
Yeah. Raw
whereas-
materials,
Where
yeah.
he's 6 foot, 200 pounds at the most, and is just such a phenomenal winner. So
Yeah.
I can make the argument Drew Brees in many ways is going to go down as a great quarterback.
Well, he
as will
already
Eli
is.
Manning.
He
But
already
Peyton
is.
Manning, for me, is a field general. He calls his plays. He's going to be a great coach one day. I don't think there's ever been a quarterback like him.
Well, I'll tell you what. Peyton Manning's first team all ugly team captain in the NFL. He's the ugliest quarterback in the NFL. How about that, Scott?
You're so
Yeah, oh yeah,
superficial.
like you're going to give me
You
to
are
bite on
so
anything you're saying right now.
We know you have a crush on Tim. We know you guys clearly have sexual tension.
Oh my God,
but
dude.
Listen, just relax on your boyfriend for a second. He's not. First of all, Peyton's a very handsome man. He's just got narrow shoulders.
No,
Got narrow
come
shoulders.
on.
He's
Peyton
got-
Manning
he's got
is
a smack
not
mouth.
a good-looking dude. Him and his brother are both team all ugly NFL. It is what it is. He's a good guy, phenomenal quarterbacks. Now, this is an argument. Obviously, Drew Brees, Tebow, Peyton Manning. Who's better, Eli or Peyton? Eli has won a lot more championships.
Peyton.
He's won 2.
Peyton.
And
Yeah.
Peyton's won 1.
Yeah.
Peyton.
Most people, it's this is a good parlor game here. What are you looking at? Do you want to look at wins and losses in the regular season? Do you want to look at championship rings? Do you want to look at raw data and
But
statistics? Peyton's
anyone
older.
cares
He's been
about is
playing
the
for longer.
playoffs. But anyone cares. The playoffs is all that people care about.
But then, if you do that, you cannot put Dan Marino anywhere in the conversation, which a lot of people up until this generation of quarterbacks has come in, the Brett Favres and the Peyton
True,
Mannings who have kind of
true.
rewritten the record book. Dan Marino went to 1 Super Bowl, never won the Super Bowl, okay? He could blow away statistically every quarterback. The game has changed. It's more of a passing league now than it was in the 80s and 90s when Marino played. But you can't put him in the argument, and that's almost patently unfair. And if you go back and
Is
look
it, though?
Well,
Is it?
you go back and
You're
look
not winning
Joe Montana
championships.
has
What are we
4
doing?
rings. Joe Montana's statistics,
Greatest quarterback of all time.
raw numbers,
Greatest
are,
quarterback of all time.
you know, passing
Really?
yards, touchdowns
Joe
are
Montana.
nowhere near what
Really?
Peyton and Brett Favre and even Marino put up. So it's
It's also the team you play on, though. Who you're handing the ball
Well,
off
it's a
to.
team
the type of-
sport.
yeah, absolutely.
It's team sport.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't know
exactly.
if you know that.
Brian, have you ever played a down of football?
I did. I played,
No, you didn't.
No, I played
What
JV.
position?
I played JV.
JV?
Yeah. In fact,
Were you the senior on JV? You were that guy. Oh no!
I wasn't because I just couldn't play football because I was first of all too small and it was too cold. I was up in New England and I was like, I hate this.
Yeah.
What position?
And not only that, I'll do you one better. I went and played touch football with my friends who were all like really good, like D1 ball players, some of them and stuff. And it was a league in Staten Island where they were like playing touch football, but they were huge.
Hardcore.
And how old are you
Really
guys at
hitting
this time?
I was in my 30s. They were calling me Brian Piccolo. I was running
makes me
away from
sad.
the play.
That
I was
makes me
running away
sad.
from the play. I was like,
Nice.
oh, these guys are running too fast at me. I was overwhelming. I was like, these guys are too big. And I'd see like a wall of dudes. I was like, I don't like this at all. I'd run away. I'll stick to wrestling guys my size. And even then, I won't.
Okay, you guys want to cross over from your conversation to football. What if I cross back over to MMA a little
Yeah.
bit?
Yeah.
There you
Okay,
go.
I got 2 stories for you.
Okay.
Ooh, let's hear
I'm
this.
not sure. Yeah, because
No,
they're actually both funny because you are talking to a man right now who has been within a hair of being destroyed by 2 respective MMA fighters, and I had no knowledge of it at the time.
Yikes.
That's
Okay.
the problem.
We'll go chronologically. So I went to Syracuse University. I walked on the football team there. I was a football player at Syracuse. And
You said you were like Rudy, but never got the sack.
I was the walk-on. I was a scrub. I was meat squad.
What
Who you call it,
position?
whatever you want. I was Rudy without the sack.
What
without
number
the
were you?
glorified
Like
sack.
77?
They stripped me of my jersey number one year and just said, "Oh no, you're wearing this now." Like usually when you got a little clout, I played all 4 years. Usually when you get a little
I
bit
know.
of seniority, you get to hold on to your jersey number till you go. I just showed up one time and I went from I was a long snapper. Okay, was what got me on the team. Right, a long snapper for punts and extra points, a specialized
How
skill.
much do you weigh?
And then
You were-
right now, I mean, I'm a little under 200, but back then I was a little bit bigger. I was 235 in high school. I was always a little
Wow.
bit carried a little extra weight
Big
around.
boy.
Yeah, and then when I went, played Division I college football, I cut some weight to try and become more athletic. It didn't help. I got destroyed every practice. I used to
play
pop,
D1
I used to
football?
pop Tylenol before practice because I
Wow.
knew how bad it was going to be. In 2 hours.
Were you the guy who didn't have his name on the back of the jersey? While
No,
everyone
I
else
wasn't
did?
that bad. I wasn't that bad. And you know what? I earned respect.
There was guys on my football team. They were walk-ons for 4
Yeah.
years. They didn't even have their name on the back of
Yeah,
their
it
jerseys.
wasn't that
I felt
bad.
horrible for
It
them,
wasn't
man.
that bad. But, I bump into some of my old teammates right now, and I always joke with them. I'm like, hey, boys, I made it to the NFL after all these years.
Yeah, lasted the
And
longest.
I lasted a lot longer than all
Yeah,
y'all
yes,
did.
sir. I love it.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
no.
man.
But anyway, so, I'm at Syracuse University, and I was at one of the establishments where we would go to at night just to unwind from a hard day of studying and football practice and whatnot. So I'm in there, and I see this absolutely beautiful, perfect 10 of a female.
We call those a smoke show around here.
Okay.
Smoke show.
She was
Dime piece.
a show of smoke.
piece.
Yes, and so naturally, I want to go up and be friendly and go talk to her. She didn't.
in your nature.
I kept seeing her staring at this other guy, like staring, going over and trying to like get this guy's attention and everything else like that. And I'm like, oh man, and I had some courage going at the
relentless.
point. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So it was closing time of said establishment. And I see this guy who she's been trying to get like his attention to walking out the door, right? And this guy was kind of a very physically fit guy, like lumbering kind of out the door. And she immediately beelines for him and takes her hands. Now we're not on camera here, so I can't. I'll describe it to you as best I can. Takes her hands and goes palms down and hooks her hands in the back of his blue jeans, right? And hooks
Oh,
her
boy.
hands in the back of her
Yeah.
of his
That's
blue
his-
jeans.
That's his property.
and
That's his
That's
property.
caveman politics right there.
That's like holding my pocket in prison.
Yeah.
well, for some
Automatically
reason,
mine.
I thought that'd be a pretty good maneuver.
What?
And so, yeah. And she wheeled around on me.
Wait,
You
so
did it to her?
I'm not saying
You did it to her?
So she's got her hands in his pockets, and you come behind her.
So then it's a pocket train.
That's a pocket
It's
train.
a pocket train.
You made a pocket train.
I will
That's
neither
off
confirm
limits,
nor
my
deny
man.
if that's the way it is. She wheeled around and gave me a look, and I was like, whatever. I'm just, being stupid and whatnot because I was just,
For sure.
flirting. And I just, I go, well, years later, fast forward. Now I recognize this guy, and I was like, wait a second, that guy's one of the. He's an athlete as well. This is a place where a lot of athletes hung out. I was like, that guy's a wrestler. I think I know him. So didn't think about it after that. I was like, okay, nothing happened. No one else noticed. It was like a 2-second thing, right?
Yeah. Could've got
Thankfully
ugly.
for me,
Could have got ugly.
Years later, I'm sitting at my house and I'm watching TV and I'm flipping through the channels and I hit HBO and it was in the middle of a documentary on HBO and it was on an MMA fighter and it was
Smashing Machine.
The Smashing Machine, right? And I start watching this and I get really fascinated by it. It's a riveting documentary. If you've ever seen it, if you haven't, I'd recommend it, whatnot. And about this guy who's going through all the, trying to train his body and everything. He gets addicted to painkillers, all this type of stuff. About maybe 20 minutes in, I look and I'm like, wait a minute. And there was some reference to Syracuse University in there. And I go, I know this guy. His Mark Kerr, who was an All-American.
A beast.
All-American.
A beast.
I guess he was a heavyweight. I'm sure he must have been a heavyweight wrestler.
260 pounds.
And I had a flashback to that night because that's who was walking out the door.
That you pocket trained Mark Kerr's girlfriend and survived to tell the story.
That wouldn't be fun.
Well,
no, he's a nightmare.
Yeah.
And so I realized, oh Lord, I just came within, and it was years later. I didn't recognize it,
Wow.
But
Great
she ended
story.
up dating me for months after that.
Is that right?
Yeah, I'm giving you a fist pound right now.
No, he's lying.
Ah, man.
You know what you don't realize? I was telling Brendan. I spent a lot of time with Brendan. We're real close, and what happens when you're close to a bear is that you figure the bear's. He and I are buddies. So after a while, it's I look at him. I know what he's capable of. I know how skilled he is. But there's a tendency when you're social with a guy like Brennan, you just don't think, you don't realize exactly what he could do to you.
Yeah.
And we were just shooting some stuff for this podcast, and I was just rolling around with him, just kind of trying to do stuff. And it just dawned on me just how easily he could kill me with his bare hands and how long it would take. It would take about 10 seconds.
Yeah.
But it's very disconcerting to realize how much stronger and how skilled he is when you fight. When you mess around with a professional fighter, especially a heavyweight like him, who's already a freaky athlete.
Yeah.
It's very disconcerting.
Sure.
You really do feel like a gazelle, like food. You're food in a lion's den.
How about I came over to Brian's house? I had your car.
Great.
So my car was in the shop. So I had Brian's car for a week. I drive a sports car, like an M6 sports car, 600 horsepower. I asked Brian, like, bro, my car's gonna be in the shop.
Wait, do you want to give us the MSRP too? On
Yeah, right. Yeah. Just setting the story here. So I asked Brian, like, hey, he's going out of town to Philly to do a show.
Yeah.
I'm like, bro, I need to rent a car. He's like, I'll take my car. You don't realize how superficial women are in LA or anybody in general until you start driving a Passat with no tint, nothing.
Turbo diesel, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, still, people don't know that.
2014. Yeah, it's what you get when you have kids.
I felt
and
like
a
Ellen
wife.
DeGeneres. I felt like I needed to rent 2 kids and a wife. That's what I felt like.
It's so true.
That's what I felt like.
But
I loved the car. I did. I loved it.
He ended up loving the car.
It was fun to take around.
I know
It was cool.
It's not your M6, but
It's just different. I wasn't used to it. But so I left a bunch of stuff in your car to pick it up. I go to your house.
It's 11:30 at night.
It's 11:30 at night.
I got my kids sleeping.
Sure.
Ding dong. I'm like, what the? Who's there?
He didn't call first.
I did call. He never checked his cell phone.
He's just he's in his sweatshirt, jeans. I mean shorts. Yeah.
I had my gym bag in your car, so I had to train it early the next morning. I need my.
I'm in my robe with my wife by
in
my
his robe.
side.
And you answer the door. I walk in. For whatever reason, I've never thought this. I go, let's just get something started here, Brian.
Well, first of all, he looks at me. He goes, "You're short without your shoes on." And he's looking down at me and my wife. It's just this giant guy in the door.
Well, I have my shoes on. Both guys don't have your shoes on. They're both getting ready for bed. I look around and go, wow. You realize I could kill both of you right now and take all your stuff. Are we aware of this?
And steal your kids. And steal your kids.
And steal your kids and drive away. And you couldn't do anything about it.
in your Passat.
It is Passat.
He told me, he looked at both of us. He goes, I could take both your heads, clang them together. I would kill you. Take all your stuff, steal your kids. We were both like, this is not a good game. I don't like this idea.
It's weird. It just hit me. I was like, wow.
He's towering over us. I was like, this is the weirdest.
Brendan and I are buddies, right? We were out to dinner not too long ago, and the hypothetical came up of what happens if every patron in this restaurant right now turned into a Russian commando
Russian
or
soldier
something
or
like
something
that.
like that, yeah.
Or a zombie,
What would be your
or a
move?
zombie,
What
yeah.
would be your? How would we get out of this?
Yeah, that's what someone asked
Like
us, right?
and
You do some damage.
yeah, you said you wouldn't reach for any silverware or anything like that.
No weapons.
No
I'd just
weapons.
go to the
He just
kitchen.
no
I'd be
weapons.
finding
You know what you
some-
do? You start jabbing guys in the face really hard.
I'd start choking guys out left and right.
Yeah, you
And
can
then
do,
Scott would finish it off for me.
you can do a lot of damage. Although I got to be honest with you, I'm very crafty, especially when I'm naked. I take my clothes off immediately.
Scott,
I'm not sure.
I'll
I,
give you some of that.
I got a
Hold
question
on,
for you.
That story.
DJ just walked in with a bunch of
Producer DJ comes
What's
in.
that?
What do you
What
got
is that?
there?
Is that
What do you
chocolate
got
chips?
there?
Christmas.
Oh.
It's got to be Christmas cookies.
I'm eating some of these.
Is that a gift for the Fire and the Kid podcast? What are we doing
It's a
here?
gift for me, but just don't touch the middle one because that one.
Aw, you
looks
baby.
interesting.
Oh wow, I'm good right now. Scott, I gotta ask you a question.
Oh,
I mean,
we get a bit. Thank
you know your football. We get this all the time. I get this all the time. Coming from an NFL background to the UFC, what guys currently in the NFL right now could cross over and be most successful in the
question.
UFC?
Well, I think you guys know Jay Glazer, right?
I know Jay very well,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay.
I know,
Jay.
we got to get him on.
Jay's tremendous NFL insider on Fox and does his shows all throughout the week and then on Sunday as well. But he's big into MMA and he trains NFL football players in MMA disciplines.
In
doesn't expose them to the injury risk that I think that
He does
guys
cross training
would,
with them at games.
Yeah, exactly.
I've helped him out numerous times.
Oh, have you? Okay.
Yeah.
And he'll tweet about different guys who have picked it up. Man, who would cross over?
Well, now if you were to ask Jay Glazer, he's going to say Deshaun Goldson, the safety for Tampa Bay
Golson
Buccaneers.
is.
I've seen him hit mitts. I mean, yeah.
Okay, now I have no idea about
Let's just say
what an
sure
NFL player
athletic.
what an NFL player could do in terms of striking or grappling or the various maneuvers
For
that you
sure,
have
but
to
let's
do
just
and
say
pressure
you
points
take
and
the-
everything
you
else
take-
like
you
that.
take-
But if you're just talking about a guy
From
who's
a
going in
kid.
there who's got that dog in him,
Yes.
who you put him in the
Yes.
octagon,
Has a fighter's heart.
and he's got that dog
Yes,
in
sir.
him. Deion
Yep,
Sanders
that's
and I
what
like
I'm
to talk about that. There are guys in the league.
You know what though?
Let him finish. Let him finish.
No, go ahead, make a comment. 'cause
no.
I'm still
Let him finish.
brainstorming
We've just
through.
talked about
I want
this.
to make sure I pick out somebody who is just and someone that people know as well. Go ahead. Make your
No, I was going to help you out.
yeah.
And you might get. Here's the thing about fighting. Actually, fighting, especially MMA, when you have to learn all those different disciplines. Yes, athleticism goes a long way, but you can speak to this more than anybody, Brennan. Athleticism goes a long way, but there are a lot of champions that are not nearly as athletic as some of the guys in the lower tier.
Same thing in football.
Because
Yes,
it's
Tom Brady.
there's so much skill involved
Yes.
in fighting. There's so much
Yeah.
strategy, skill, and right
mental
Brennan?
toughness. Mental toughness.
But
goes a
also
long
strategy,
ways.
right?
Well,
When you-
100%.
I mean, how long does it take to be a good boxer? It
a
takes
long time. I'm still learning.
Yeah. And how about being a really good jiu-jitsu guy? You're still
Even
learning.
longer.
Thank you. And learning how to set up. Then let's take learning how to set up a double leg off of striking and mixing it all together.
Yes,
Good luck.
we understand MMA is very hard. All I want to know is from my friend Scott is who can translate from the NFL to the UFC.
Okay, look. Any guy that I name right now would be put down inside
No,
of 60
I'm not saying that.
seconds
I'm not saying.
with a pro.
I'm just saying.
Just as
let's say you start him as a
if an
kid.
MMA guy walked onto a practice field, which has been tried before, to try and make an NFL roster.
Brock Lesnar, yeah.
Brock
Different
didn't
sport.
last through a
It's a
training
different
camp.
sport.
He tried, and he's a big height, weight, speed type guy,
sure.
right, and everything like that. It's so specialized.
I'm just saying, let's say
I do
you
not
took-
want to come across as insulting.
No,
by
you're not
naming
at all.
Somebody and saying
no.
Let's
Let's say you took Vernon Davis as a kid.
Yeah.
Probably the biggest freak in the NFL. Vernon Davis
that
as a kid.
hypothetical I can go with.
That's what
Yeah.
I'm saying.
Yeah.
You take him from a kid and you say,
yes.
listen, instead
Yeah.
of playing Pee Wee football,
Yeah.
we're going to start you in an MMA
Yeah.
gym. Who
Dude,
you
Vernon-
take?
Vernon Davis is
Vernon
a guy
Davis
that
is a freak.
he is a story about Vernon Davis. Girls in high school used to accidentally, purposely spill water on him in the hallway so that he'd have to go and change his shirt. And just to get a glimpse,
He's jacked.
just to get a
Dude,
glimpse.
I liked him better
Pro Bowl
when he-
tight end for the 49ers for you only fight fans out there.
He's such a freak. How do you not?
Yeah.
He is the most beautiful man I've ever seen.
I'll throw you one. A guy that I
feel
think that-
weird.
As do I. So do I. I feel
Beautiful
weird looking
man.
at him. I was like, oh man, I thought I was straight this whole time. Silence.
Pause. Scott, go ahead.
How
Good pause.
How about J.J. Watt of the Houston Texans? This
That's a
guy
good
has
pick.
he has
That's
he
a good-
has
the best D tackle.
He
in the league.
has I mean the defensive lineman there is
He's
and
so
he has
big.
and granted he'd be going in against
too big,
super heavies or
Brennan?
heavy.
No, he's 285, right?
Yeah, no, he probably weighs a little bit closer to 3 bills,
Yeah.
but yeah, I think they probably list him at 2.
It's a little sloppy. A little
Yeah.
big, right? Don't you?
Nope.
lose
I tell
stone?
you what, if he looks like a superhero, like off the top front of a comic book. If you ever see him
With the shirt off?
like,
No homo? Really?
No, I've seen him in like the tight Under Armour stuff. If you really want to know,
And he's not, like,
it's no,
flabby?
looks like a superhero, dude.
J.J.
Like,
Watt's a great
looks
pick
like-
to translate
looks like he
over
could
to the
turn
UFC.
into Sasquatch
That's
at
a
any
great
point.
pick because he's a beast.
And
Hold
he's a
on.
beast. He's tough, and
He's a good character too.
he also has like his famous for that. His nickname is JJ SWAT because he's batted down more passes at the line of scrimmage. There's some hand-eye coordination and some quickness there. That's not just about being a
That's
bull.
a great pick.
Yes, but wait. There has been always a debate. What's the perfect size for a heavyweight? If you
Yeah.
Bro,
look at,
we're just talking about the NFL and the
No,
UFC.
hold on.
We're not talking about the ideal
again,
weight to heavyweight.
I think
240 is
JJ
the
Watt-
perfect weight. by
JJ
the way.
Watt.
240 is the
when you
perfect
talk about
weight.
Vernon Davis, now you're talking about the perfect weight and perfect speed. JJ Watt might be too big as far as if you had to fight a guy like JJ Watt who has to suck down.
I'd rather fight
260.
Vernon Davis.
Correct.
I'd
You
rather
would?
fight Vernon Davis. You know why?
Why?
Because he has so much muscle, he's going to gas out in about 3 minutes into
That's
the first round.
another
Yeah,
question.
that's the thing,
maybe.
too.
So
I've
how
seen
about
some-
you pipe down?
You pipe down.
Carry on, Scott.
You pipe down.
Carry on, Scott.
One of the I love the segment that a network who's a competitor of my employer, so I won't necessarily name them, but they're 4 letters acronym, and they do
man.
they do sports science. You seen
Yep,
that before?
My friend does it.
I've seen-
John Brankus.
Yeah,
created it.
great job. I would compliment him, tremendously
We'll get him
in
on.
broadcast.
Is he a
Anyways,
friend?
It's one of my oldest friends.
Oldest?
Oh yeah,
Played for the New York
very
Jets
close.
too.
Played for the
I
New York
was told.
Jets and hung out with Deacon Jones,
Played with
actually.
Deacon Jones
Yeah.
and was the other cop holding the dog.
No, but I believe it was a sports science segment where I watched and how they did, and I'll butcher the terms that they used, but it was transference of muscle and contraction by MMA athletes who are in a particular hold at a time. They're
sure.
on the ground and they can
use
maintain.
Randy
It's like a
Couture.
boa constrictor,
Yeah.
where they know they don't exhaust their muscles because they can transfer the power from a bicep to a hip to a wherever they need to at any given time, and that is something that football players can't touch. Football players are explosive athletes who are trained and have been trained their whole lives to explode for
Stop,
6
go.
seconds.
Stop, go, yes.
Yeah.
The average length of an NFL
Yeah.
play, 6 seconds.
Very different sport.
Or less, and to do that over a repeated amount of time.
Yeah.
MMA guys are constantly using that, if depending on what
You
the
need
nature
good
of
cardio.
the fight is.
Fighting
But
25 minutes,
it's
fighting for
unbelievable.
25 minutes for a title
Unbelievable.
shot.
Yeah.
You got your cardio. I would venture to say has to be as good as any marathoners.
And it's fascinating that you say that a guy with that muscle
Too much
would do
muscle
it
is
because
not good.
because what the lactic acid just builds up to immediately.
Yeah,
and they can't,
listen, when you're that muscular and you have that much more muscle than the other guy, you're requiring more oxygen.
Yeah.
So I'm going to
Okay.
push the pace on you early.
Okay.
Doesn't it slow you down too to be too muscle bound in some ways? Like when you lift that much, like that, it's not that.
Well, some guys are just born that way. Like I played with guys before, and when I was with Buffalo, and when I was at the University of Colorado, where they were so muscle bound, the coaches would ask them to take days off not to lift because
Wow.
they get too big.
Wow.
Because the other guy I would have named maybe in terms of a guy who
JJ
just-
Watt's a good one.
Yeah.
that's a really good one.
might
is-
be too slow.
Not at all.
Well, how about
Punching-wise?
and this might go. I mean, that he has maybe 2% body fat, so this might not work. But Adrian Peterson.
Oh, wow,
that
that's a
guy,
different human being.
The
Ooh,
violence,
he's a beast.
the violence with which he embraces the game of football, which is it's a violent collision sport. Wow, might transfer to Emmett. The dude's fearless. He really is.
he really?
Like I
Played
think
against him in college.
I think
Played against him in
sometimes-
college.
Did
Big
you
12
really?
championship.
Oh, okay.
Ran for about 200 yards, won the Heisman
Yeah.
on us. Yeah, he's a freshman.
Strongest handshake I've ever felt.
I've
on
heard
him.
that.
And
I heard
history-
his
it's
hands
like
were
it should be an amusement park ride. You should pay money to shake Adrian Peterson's hand at one time. And when you know it's coming, because like I'm telling you right now, and your audience
See,
is
I don't
hearing
like
me talk
that.
about it. I had people tell me, "Have you shaken his hand yet before?" And I'm like, "No."
Wait, is
what's
he the
big
one
deal?
he does on
And it
purpose? He
No,
squeezed?
I don't think he's doing it on purpose. I asked him straight up after he did it. I was like, I felt my knuckles, in the joint of my hand, like kind of
Crunch.
crunched together. And I got pretty strong hands.
How tall is
I
he?
get-
How tall is he?
He is 6'2", 225, I believe, is what they
Shredded.
list him at.
He's such a freak.
And I'm
like
telling
that.
you,
I don't like
2%
guys
body
who
fat, which I
squeeze-
don't know if that would be a negative.
Well, some guys deal with it better.
Yeah.
I don't like guys who shake hands that hard.
Hey,
I feel like it's a
Hey,
dominance
he
thing.
claims.
Calm down.
I don't like that.
Yeah.
You're already getting riled up on Peterson, aren't you? Look at you.
Peterson's a monster. J.J. Watt's a good one. Peterson, I mean, I'm sure.
I think Peterson would be
There are some
anything he
couple
did.
of the linebackers for the San Francisco 49ers are just animals
Patrick
on the
Willis.
field. Patrick Willis, Navarro Bowman is his
a
running
tough
mate
one.
on the inside.
Yeah.
Those guys are, and I would think that their body type could be trained. But again,
I think Patrick Willis might
you
be
need
the
to do
best
this.
that you've mentioned.
You
so
need
far.
to do this from the beginning. I've often said, and it kind of goes back to what we talked about earlier, that I think that NFL athletes as a whole are the collectively best group of athletes
Yep,
in the world.
I agree 100%.
You know, the United States, we're terrible in soccer, right? The world's sport, and we are the most sport crazy society in the world. The United States is.
Yep.
And yet we're horrible at the world sport. Why is that?
Because American
Well,
soccer's boring,
and
you get picked on if you play it here.
you give me Barry Sanders, you give me Deion Sanders, you give me Deshaun Jackson, the current wide receiver for the Philadelphia Eagles. From the time that they were
faster
five,
than Michael Vick,
from
by the way.
the time they were 5 years old, give them to me. I'll put a soccer ball on the end of their foot.
Oh, we're
and
winning
put it in
gold.
and
We're winning gold.
and we will destroy the rest of the
Destroy.
world.
No question.
Destroy.
Now I don't know if you got international listeners on your podcast who are going to try and hunt me down on
Deion
Twitter and
Sanders.
tell me,
Throw Deion Sanders in there.
tell me how off base I am. I'm telling you right now. It'll
I agree
happen.
100%.
It'll happen.
Now I
So,
got a question. We,
yeah.
we got into this, and I'm not going to let you get out of here. I'll see with your Super Bowl pick and your playoff picks.
All right.
We got to go over that.
Okay.
However, I got a question for you that we got an argument over this. Are NASCAR drivers athletes?
Yeah, that's, do they compete? Absolutely.
I didn't say do they compete. Me and my brother
I'm
compete.
just
My
going through the
brother's not a freaking
criteria by
All-American.
which we might establish
All right,
the
go
fact
ahead.
if they're
I'll let you
athletes
finish.
or not. Because I'm not sure I'm going to answer the question straight up. Do they compete? Absolutely. Is what they do physically demanding? And yes, believe it or not, it is.
I drove my car from Denver to LA and I was just
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah.
Hey, dude,
Not-
you're not. Don't
not at-
compare that.
I
Not
drove
at
really
185.
fast on my M6.
Hey, yesterday I boxed.
Not at
I
185, and I believe you had the air conditioner on when you did it.
Yeah.
No, I
NASCAR
didn't.
drivers
No, I
lose.
didn't.
They
I actually
lose.
wore a football helmet and turned on the heat to see if I could make it.
Hey,
and I
man.
did it just fine.
That's
I was
crazy.
snacking on water and beef jerky, just fine.
He was wearing a hair shirt. Go on.
So all right, so they drive cars really fast in hot weather.
I mean, I would put because then if you say no to that question,
Yeah, I'm telling you, Scott. I say no.
Oh, I
then
say yes.
Then
They're
then you
physically demanding.
might need to take golfers off of the list. And are they athletes? They deal with muscle memory. They deal with
They're athletes.
They hit a
hand-eye
ball. They
coordination.
do a physical movement hitting the ball. It's
Yeah.
not another machine making doing
Yeah.
the work.
Yeah.
Well, first of all-
Because then is the kid who's the very best at playing Call of Duty on PlayStation using another machine the best in the world?
That's a
It's
good
different.
argument.
No, it's
That's a good
different.
How's it
argument.
different
but-
than
I'll tell
NASCAR?
you exactly how.
Let's hear
NASCAR,
it.
you're using your feet. You're using both your
Using
feet.
your
Both your
feet.
feet. Using and you're using both your hands.
To shift like this. Check
Shift
it out.
and steer.
Oh, check it out.
Shift,
I'm a world class
steer, fight
athlete.
G-forces.
G-forces.
Yeah. Fight, shift, steer. You're fighting G-forces. It's all spatial relationships.
Yeah.
It's everything.
This is crazy. It sounds like you're talking about a
and-
video
Okay,
game.
so-
And they last 3 hours. And you're physically spent. And
I know kids who
it is
play video
exhausting.
games for 8 hours.
You're not in
I'll turn on the
NASCAR.
heat.
You're not winning NASCAR without being in ridiculous shape.
What?
Yeah, I said it.
Man, I don't think
Well,
Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s in amazing shape.
Yeah,
How about
he
that?
Actually, yeah, they
Yes.
actually
Oh,
train
yes,
a
he
lot.
is.
Jimmy Johnson is the king of the hill there, and
Shredded.
Jimmy
Looks just
Johnson
like-
Jimmy
just
Johnson
looks like Deacon
the
Jones.
people can't see it in here, but he looks like that the sparring.
He's
dummy
a
that you
smaller
got in
guy,
there.
though. He's a
Well,
smaller guy.
Okay,
He's
fine,
not
but-
like some freak athlete. I bet he runs a 5.8 in the 40.
Hey, easy. He doesn't need
yeah,
to run. He's got. You know how fast what his car does in the 40?
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do know because
Yeah, no,
I play
you
it on my
don't.
PlayStation and I turn the heat on.
Okay,
so am
so-
I a world class athlete?
Okay, now
as far as NASCAR goes,
He
then
doesn't need
Kentucky Derby jockeys.
Thank you, sir.
No, I'm just
Thank
throwing
you,
it out
sir.
there. Just throwing it
Thank
out
you,
there.
they're
sir.
using a machine. Are they athletes?
Yeah, they are.
They got to cut weight.
Oh
just
my-
like,
are
they got to
they?
cut weight just like fighters.
Okay.
Kidding me?
They
Riding
gotta-
a horse when you're up. I wish you guys could see me. I'm up like this. And I'm
jeans are
riding.
too tight for this, Brian. Your jeans
I know,
are too tight.
But I'm gonna. Oh God. I got to get out of here.
Brendan,
No, you
don't
don't.
hook his jeans with
No,
your
you're not
hands.
going
Don't-
anywhere.
I got another podcast, Brendan.
No, I told you Scott was coming. You're not leaving.
I've been here for an hour and a half, man.
I do not care. You're not leaving.
What are you
early.
going to do, bully me?
I'm gonna. I promise. If you get up, I will punch you in the stomach.
Hey,
Wow.
man, this is it.
I'll do play-by-play
Where's
as
that
best I
camera?
can.
Scott, you should.
I'll do play-by-play.
I got a witness. I got to go.
No, you're not going anywhere.
You're being a bully.
I'm straight up bullying you right now.
I'm a grown
You're
man.
not leaving. Yeah.
I got
You're
tricks.
a grown man who thinks a jockey and NASCAR driving are world class athletes.
I'm getting out of here.
No, you're not.
Hey, he's physically. Hey, somebody call it. You have a cell phone?
Ladies and gentlemen, it's a left to the chest. It's a right
using
to the
his-
sternum.
You're not going anywhere.
You just manhandled me.
Straight up manhandle. I'll do it again if
That's
I have
how-
to.
that's-
and I'll steal that robe the other night.
I
that
gotta
came out.
go. You saw
No.
me. I wasn't wearing underwear. I showed him my piece. I'll admit it.
They didn't tell me about any of this.
No, he was taking it back.
Oh, we
this
didn't tell you that
podcast.
Brian's super creepy on the podcast?
Yeah, I'm a little creepy.
Just a minute ago, they were offering us Christmas cookies, and now
We still are,
there are
Scott.
assaults going
still are.
on.
Well,
in the-
just to wrap up the NASCAR and the jockeys, I don't think either of them are athletes when we're talking about athletics.
Okay.
I'm just going to throw that out there.
Okay.
Brian does.
Yeah.
Now, I can't let you get out of here without giving your Super Bowl predictions.
okay.
Not Super Bowl, but Super Bowl.
Okay.
Sorry about his accent.
Sorry about my accent.
I understood what he meant.
Yeah.
I'm good. You know what? I'm going to go chalk on you here, fellas. The number one seed in the AFC currently, as we sit here and talk, is the Denver Broncos.
That's my team.
And I think it's their year this year. I think
really?
yeah,
Even
because,
in New York?
dude.
It's Peyton Manning.
New Jersey.
Well, no. You're saying who my picks to make it to the Super Bowl?
My bad.
AFC
Okay,
representative.
okay.
I'll take Denver. I think they're going to get home field, and I think this year they're going to cash in on it.
Ooh, I
Okay?
like that. I like where you're going.
In the NFC, the number one seed right now are the Seattle Seahawks. And I'll tell you what, assuming they do get home field, and they definitely have the inside track to do that, I don't see anybody going in there and beating them.
Not in Seattle.
That stadium is the loudest stadium I've ever
12th
been in. And
man.
I've been in
12th
all
man,
of the
baby.
best
Yeah.
in the NFL and in college football and in basketball arenas and whatever. Those folks affect the game, and they know they're affecting the game.
Wow.
And it not only distracts the other team, not distracts, but it hinders
I'm
the other team making
surprised
their
Seattle's
their
that
calls.
loud.
You know what?
Because they're so low blood sugar.
It-
it's like a bunch of sensible white people and Asian
And it's
people
all
in
cloudy.
Lot
it's
of
coffee.
A lot of caffeine.
A lot of coffee.
Coffee, yeah.
They're all jacked
It's
up
a lot
on
of white
coffee
people
and
and Asian
Nirvana.
people, highly educated with sensible shoes. I just never.
So you got Seattle
not the
versus
stereotype.
Denver.
yeah, not
in the
stereotype.
Meadowlands.
I think Seattle versus Denver.
And who you
which,
taking?
I'm not going to make my pick just yet. If that ends up being, I'll come back on the show and I'll pick.
Ooh, perfect. We'll have
I'll
you
pick,
call in.
yeah.
Wait,
I'll pick
Seattle?
one or two. I'll
So
call in
you're
from the
saying Seattle?
sideline of the Super Bowl.
Ooh, I like that.
Here's the question.
I like
Scott.
that.
Any shot of getting Brennan and I on the sidelines? Is it
Well, I'll be at the Super Bowl, Brian, so I'll send you a Snapchat. Anyways,
going with
Scott, now
going with your boyfriend?
Now you got the NFL picks.
Yeah.
Now the Super Bowl for the UFC. I need some predictions for you here. We got Anderson Silva,
Okay.
Chris Weidman,
Yeah.
and Ronda Rousey versus Misha Tate.
Can I
Now-
tell you my other almost getting destroyed by an MMA player or fighter?
Is it one
story?
of these guys?
So I went down to Brazil on a humanitarian aid mission trip down into the Amazon. I lived on a boat for 2 weeks.
Sounds miserable.
And it was really taxing. It was really, it was something. It was, one of those ones where you give and you get back, that type of thing. So we're leaving. Now, the main city on the Amazon River is Manaus, Brazil. That's the main part where you would fly in and out of if you're launching up the river. So we're leaving from Manaus. We got a flight from Manaus to Miami. Now I've just been 2 weeks living on a boat, and we were living hard basically. Right? I'm tired. I'm exhausted. I want to get on this plane. I want to go to sleep, land in Miami, and go get American food when I land. The back of the plane was empty, so I am just thrilled. Right? I was back in coach, and I said there's going to be empty rows and whatnot. Well, people are coming on the flight, and this family comes on, and it's a guy and his what appeared to be his wife, and then maybe like a mother or a mother-in-law, and then a pack of kids, including this little small fat kid who just was, you could just tell he was wired up on Sprite and Skittles.
He's all jacked up on Mountain Dew.
Yeah, exactly. He was.
I'm all jacked up on Mountain Dew.
So he starts bouncing around the cabin like a spider monkey once the flight starts, and what he's doing is, how they wrap the blankets in cellophane.
Yeah.
They wrap. He's just going through, and these are all empty seats, right?
Tearing
He's
it open.
just tearing it open and throwing the cellophane. He goes behind my seat. He doesn't need to at all. Feet up on the back of my seat and everything like that. So I can't.
I'd have to smack a fat kid.
I stared at the kid for a while, but then
You
I'm
gave
like,
him the evil
I got to
eye.
go to the source, right?
sure.
Well, at the beginning of the flight, I noticed that a couple of other what appeared to be Brazilians were getting on the flight, and they noticed the father of this family, or what appeared to be the patriarch of the family. And they were like, started taking photos with him. And I'm like, okay, this guy is some,
This is the father to the fat kid.
Well, yes, best I can tell.
Okay.
Yeah, because he was the only. I was looking for the authority
Or the
figure
fat kid
when I
was a
wanted to go.
stowaway, something.
And so yeah, right. They're taking pictures. I'm like, okay, this guy must be some movie star or something like that. I don't know who this guy is.
Yeah.
So I came this close just to going up to him and saying, dude, you don't even pay attention to your kids. Are you just, I was cranky. I was just mad.
You've had enough.
Would you just whatever? But for whatever reason, I said, Scott, just let it ride. That's not the Christian spirit to do that.
Now, was the kid, when you were thinking this, he's continuing kicking the back of your chair?
Oh, the whole time.
Oh,
I didn't get
hell
like
no. Hell no.
I was after I settled down. I think for a while I got a little bit of shut eye.
Yeah.
The end of the story is this. I didn't think about it anymore after that. I'm over at a buddy's house who's a friend of mine who's a huge MMA guy. His name's Paul Houseman, and so we're watching the pay-per-view event. And I don't remember who was fighting, but they do one of the cutaway shots, what we call on TV, the cutaway shots of, and so is sitting by the ring.
Yeah.
I think it was Silva.
Anderson Silva.
Do we know if he has a pack of kids?
He does. He does.
Yeah.
He does.
And he's Brazilian.
He's the greatest fighter.
I look and I go,
UFC history.
that is the freaking guy who was
you should have said
irritated
something.
kid that I came this close to just whacking him in the back of the chair.
You know
and
what,
saying,
though?
Dude, control your family.
You know what, though?
Which I
Anderson Silva's like the nicest guy ever.
Is he?
He
I
would
don't
have
know.
said, I'm sorry, my obese son is causing all this ruckus.
Yeah.
I will choke him out for you.
Yeah.
That might have happened. He's as nice as they come.
He's the greatest fighter in UFC history, and he will beat Chris Weidman in UFC. Weidman, Anderson, too. There they are. Beautiful children.
It's the one at the bottom left. We got a picture of him. It's the one at the bottom left. Looks real healthy.
I'm not saying anything bad about his children.
Me neither. That's a great looking family. However, there was one that's a little overweight. Kicking my boy Scott's chair on his way home from Brazil.
No, the kid was just going up in weight class. That's all. He was
Put on
he was
some
just
LBs.
going up. Yeah.
All right, kids. Scott, I can't thank you enough for joining.
All right, Brian, be good. Be with you, man.
I'm not leaving yet.
You're not.
No, because we need.
Am I leaving?
No. You're not leaving. You're staying here. We're gonna.
Yeah, what's going on?
It sounded
You
like
took
a big wrap up to me.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on right now.
Because you know what? I end the fun sometimes. Sometimes I go, we've been talking for an hour and 15. Scott's been an amazing guest.
We're going to the deep, dark crevices.
We're not going to take his time. He's too nice.
It's true.
And he's got to get out of here.
He just looked at producer DJ and went,
he's slashing his own throat, going, I'm done with these losers.
So I'm guessing in our UFC Super Bowl, you're taking Anderson Silva.
Yeah, absolutely. Sure, why not?
Why not is right.
Because he almost fought the best on a flight from Manaus to
That's
Miami.
right.
Whoa,
That's right.
there it is.
That almost happened. So
I'm one of those complete nut jobs that I often have some kind of masochistic tendency where I say, just once, maybe I'd like to step in. Not against a professional, but just against somebody and just say, let's do this.
Just come to training.
I can set
As
it
we
up in
started
Santa
this,
Monica if you want to fight Brian.
Yeah.
When diplomacy breaks down.
Yeah, you need to
And
know.
there's no other way, and you just go old school to say, all right.
Well, I like to
let me
think
say-
when the zombie apocalypse happens,
Yeah, you
who are
wanna
you
be
going to call
prepared.
first?
You
Because
wanna
guess
be
what? You call
prepared.
Big Brown. I can only let a couple people into my place. I can only let a couple people in the Skyrise in Marina Del Rey.
That's it.
There's only a couple.
Do yourself a
Brian,
favor.
you're not going to get in.
Box and Burn, our friend Tony Jeffries, who's his striking coach,
Okay.
has got a great place in Santa Monica called Box and Burn.
Okay.
Where you want to learn how to box, he's a real bronze medalist.
If you're single, too, there are ladies everywhere.
Nothing but hot ladies and everything else. Now, I just moved around with Tony. Well, we sparred, quote unquote, which doesn't mean we sparred.
Well,
I
you
put on-
sparred, Tony kinda walked around.
I just tried to hit him. In 3 minutes, he would have beaten me. He would have killed me from exhaustion. I was didn't touch me.
Wow.
So
Was
You
Dinkin
didn't touch
Jones?
him.
get a sense of what first of all, how exhausting it is just to move around for 3 minutes
Sure.
with a pro, not even hit him.
Wow.
Then grab Big Brown and see if you can do anything.
Yeah.
And he'll just throw you in a little.
I feel like if we put some Deacon Joan highlights on, you would do much better.
Listen, don't you have to run to Tim's house? Don't you and Tim Tebow have to go and have?
Well, no. Do you need to
Chipotle
call
or
your friend
something?
who knew
Don't you
Deacon
guys have to
Jones
go?
with the dogs? Because I don't believe any of that.
You know,
How about that? How about I don't believe
think I'm
any of
lying
your
on the
NFL
fighter and the
stories?
kid?
Yeah, I think you're making
think
that
I'm
up.
making that story
Yeah, I
up?
do.
That's an outrageous
You know
thing
what?
to
You've
say.
taken enough of Scott's time. You've taken enough of my
He's gotta
time
get out
with
of
your
here.
crap NFL stories and knowledge. This is the Fighter and the Kid, Scott Hanson, NFL Network, Red Zone, Brian the Kid Callen. We're out.
Later.